Hello everyone and welcome back. Or if you don't know who I am or what this channel's about, welcome here, I guess. I was recently looking for some ideas for some content and threw it out to subscribers on the community page on this channel. And I received a lot of really cool suggestions, some INFJ stuff, some writing stuff, but there were actually a lot of writing suggestions for videos. And I thought, you know what, it's time to do a cool little writing video with some fun stuff in it and some things that I can just kind of talk about and hopefully help some of my fellow writers out there, because helping writers is something I actually really enjoy doing because I know what it's like to struggle with words and all that kind of stuff. What I wanted to do was put a little twist on this and work through some writing prompts. And I'll give you a couple of small examples of stuff that I did with the prompts and how I kind of turn it around. A lot of times as writers, really as artists and creators in general, we have a difficult time finding that motivation, or we get stuck in a rut, or we kind of just, I don't know, it's hard to find that inspiration to sort of branch out and get that creative mind going. So I'd like to show you one of the ways that I do that with writing prompts that's probably not a traditional way to work with writing prompts. As with pretty much everything I do, I kind of mix MBTI into this. So you're going to see one of a character that you were introduced to in a prior video. I'll post it or link it or show it with a little thing in the eye in the corner or whatever it is. And that character is Avery Armstrong. And Avery is modeled very much after myself with a lot of traits. He is an INFJ. He is insecure, awkward, and all of those awesome things. The first chapter of a book that I'm working on featuring Avery and his story is I read the first chapter in that prior video that I tried to link somewhere that hopefully worked. You are also going to meet Billy Joe. And Billy Joe is another character in that story. Billy Joe and her big brother Vernon, they're adopted twins. She talks a lot. Vern doesn't say anything. So there's that. That's their kind of dynamic. Billy Joe is probably, I would say she's closest to an ESTP. So she's very much an extrovert. She is very much, she's out there with herself. And so she's very sensory and things like that. And so I don't pay too much attention to side characters and really trying to wrap them around their MBTI type, but I try to at least give some of that flavor to it. And you're also going to meet Theo. And Theo is a very disgruntled, jaded 20-year-old kid who's just, well, he pretty much just hates everybody in the world, and he's very cranky and all of those things, but he softens up in the story. So I'm gonna show you some of these things and how I use these characters to work through writing prompts. One last little thing. When this video is over, I hope you'll join us on our Discord channel. And so I started up an INFJ/artist creative Discord a few weeks ago, and we've slowly and steadily gotten some members to it, and it's really cool. There's amazing people hanging out there, and we have very lively discussions. Writing prompts are going up just about every day, talking about all sorts of stuff with MBTI, Enneagram, INFJs, all the other types, and it's just a really cool place to kind of hang out, share some memes, chat with fellow people that are hanging out and watching this video right now, actually. And I like to hang out there as well. So come by, say hi, introduce yourself. I know it's terrible for an INFJ to do, but just do it anyway, right? Just get it over with and it's fine. And hang out with us and discuss the video or anything related to anything, really. If it has to do with personality typing or if it has to do with being a creative, you're welcome there, and we've got plenty of space and cool things going on. So on to the writing. I'm the type that has a difficult time with creative energy, and it's kind of all over the place. I have to be in the right headspace to write, and if I'm not, the words they're just not coming out, and it becomes very difficult, and it's hard because you sort of get down on yourself when that's going on. Now, this can apply to any creative endeavor. So if whether it's painting and art, whether it's something that you're crafting or creating with your hands, and really anything where you are creating something that has some sort of aesthetic to it, be it writing or song or whatever, this kind of applies. And we get into those, I don't know, it's kind of like a rut where, you're thinking like, gosh, I've been working on the same thing and, I can't get new ideas. I can't do something new. And so how do I shake that up? And how do I twist that up in such a way that's going to work? This is called the So deck. I've shown it on a video before, and the cards just say so. And it has different prompts on it. So, what are you most grateful for this week? So, what are 3 things that would instantly put you in a bad mood? Candy corn, and candy corn. People. It's gross. It's trash. Some of you really like candy corn, and I know like I'm agitating you with that, with my hatred of this stuff, but it's just garbage, so I don't care. Anyway, these So cards are really cool because they just have these little ideas on them, and I like to go through the deck and pick some out. And so last year I was in a small writing group that was gathering at a local coffee shop, which we are obviously not doing right now. And we were like, we need some ideas. We need to get out of just our creative funk and do something new. So there, enter the prompts, right? And the first prompt that we did was this question. If you were going to be blind in a year, what would you want to see? During the course of that year, what would you want to absorb? What would you want in your eyes? What would you look for if you knew that day was coming where your vision would not work anymore? And so the way I look at writing prompts is to try and twist this up into a creative way. So what I ended up doing was taking this prompt and running with it with my characters, the ones that were in the story that I'm writing. And so now this story is called Brain Dead. I'm about 33-ish, I think, 1,000 words into it. It is not the book that I have finished, which is called The Caretaker, which is up around 87,000 words. And that one I've got to edit and finish, and that one's going to be out. Brain Dead is just kind of like this project that I started going on, having some fun with. It's pretty lighthearted. And so what I thought is, okay, I've got a stack of cool characters in this work, probably about 10 or so between main characters and side characters. And let me take some of them because they're very different, and let's get the dynamic going and use the writing prompt to explore the characters. So for this question, if you were going to be blind in a year, what would you see? I decided to choose Avery for this one. And what I thought was, let me put Avery in an uncomfortable situation to answer this question. And the uncomfortable situation was an interview. So something where there's a camera on and they're asking him this question and he has to give the answer on camera with people watching or something along those lines. Because what better a situation to throw an insecure INFJ into when he's feeling supremely awkward than to ask him something like this off the cuff and see what the answer is like. Here we go. This is a conversation between Avery and the person running the camera and basically doing the interview. So what I'll do is I'll try to put up Avery as a character and when he is speaking, just so it's a little easier for you to kind of see what's what. It's not very long, so stick with me for just a minute and then I'll talk about it. If you're going to be blind in a year, what would you want to see? Well, Avery sighed. I mean, sunsets are cool and all. I don't know. Beautiful stuff, puppies or babies or something. Really? That's it? Puppies and babies? Avery fidgeted. Okay, I can probably do better than that. It's just kind of embarrassing to open up, Well, try. Could you maybe turn off the camera? No, sorry. Well, okay then. I just spend time with my friend Simone. Why? I like her smile, Avery said. It brings me a lot of comfort. Well, how long have you two known each other? Avery looked toward the ceiling and thought. Since we were kids? I climbed a tree outside her house when I was like 8. I was stuck up there crying. She came out of her house to play and heard me and climbed up there with me, just to make me feel better. In an instant, I forgot all my fears. She said I was silly. She had no fear. She helped me down. We were just 8, but she wiped my tears away, and I can still remember her smile on that day. You mean you'd have a whole year before going blind? Is that all you'd do? Avery paused and thought, looking down at his shoes. A smile slid across his face. Yeah, actually. I could spend a lifetime looking at her smile, and it would never get old. If I knew I would never see it again, I'd spend as much time as I could memorizing it. Every single day. So that's a small piece, right? Like I said, these are short, and it's just to get the juices flowing as far as creative writing. So instead of taking a prompt of, if you were going to be blind in a year, what would you want to see? And writing down, if I was going to be blind in a year, I would want to see this and this and this and this and so on and so forth and all this kind of stuff. I don't like using writing prompts to write what I'm thinking. I don't do them in a journalistic, like in a journaling sense. I like to do it by throwing it at one of my characters, and taking that character and how would they answer it? Or really just make up a character or make up something and answer the question through somebody else's eyes. And I find that when I do that, it immediately puts me into a really cool creative space, because now I'm trying to think of, what is this person like? Are they fidgety? Are they awkward? And how can I show that with my writing and show that just creatively in that way? Now, this is unedited writing. So I haven't really gone through, like a lot of these I haven't read in a little while. So it is, a little rough around the edges, but you get the general idea. And in this one, I wanted to really hone in on Avery as a character and how much he adores his friend Simone. It's unrequited love. She doesn't return it. But he's just completely and totally smitten with her. And I thought this was kind of a cool way to show it and say, you're going to be blind and all he wants to do is see her. And it really colors him as a character and that very soft heart that he has. This isn't in the book that I'm writing with his story. It's just something separate to do to kind of jumpstart that creativity. So let me give you another one, right? And by all means, in the comments of the video, if you have some ideas or things like this, or how you might use prompts, whether it's writing or journaling or whatever else, let me know. And certainly hop over onto the Discord and let's chat about this kind of stuff. And we have really cool prompts up there. So use those. If you're a writer, if you feel like, chiming into this kind of stuff, we'd love to see you there. So the next one, this one's slightly longer. And this one, you're going to get to know Billy Joe, who's she's a little bit country, and she's a spark plug, right? She's a bit of a spitfire. And Theo, who is just a really cranky 20-year-old. And yeah, Theo doesn't really like anything. So, I thought this was kind of a fun contrast. Billy Joe is a type that's really kind of sarcastic and outgoing and can be seen as maybe pushy. And Theo is that kind of sort of reserved internal. He's probably an INTJ. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I love my INTJs. I do. But it's Theo. So here we go. Now, the writing prompt for this one, this was not one out of the SODEC. This was just the word judgment. If you take the word judgment, what do you think of? And write something that has to do with judgment. There's lots of obvious directions that you can go in with this. And so the one that I took is being judgmental. And that's kind of what this little scene is about. In this scene, these two are driving through Theo's neighborhood. Billy Joe is driving, and Theo's in the passenger seat, and they're in a big old beat-up pickup truck that belongs to Billy Joe's brother Vern, and they're just making their way through a neighborhood, and that's all, just having a conversation. So here we go. Billy Joe could barely reach the pedals on her brother's lifted Ford pickup, but she managed to drive just fine through her friend Theo's neighborhood. They passed perfectly manicured lawns and big, beautiful houses with some fancy cars in the driveway. "You live here?" she asked. "Don't remind me," Theo replied. "This place sucks." "Why would you say that? Looks nice enough to me. Look at them cars." Theo scoffed. "It's all fake. Just a bunch of rich assholes with their 2.5 kids living their perfect little lives when just below the surface, they're a bunch of rotten to the core human beings." Billy Joe looked around the neighborhood. There were kids playing in the yards, some neighbors chatting happily, and more than a few people outside on the gorgeous day getting in some yard work. She noticed Theo's look was one of absolute disdain for his surroundings. "I don't know," she said. This place seems kind of nice. Do you know any of these people? Theo tugged on his jacket and shook his head. Hell no. I walk around this neighborhood and they give me this look like I don't belong. Judgmental jerks. Sad to know their kids are probably going to grow up into a new generation of entitled, holier-than-thou monsters. So you're saying they don't like you because of how you look? Exactly. Billy Joe motioned toward the visor above Theo's seat. Can you flip that down for me? I think I left something up there. Theo flipped the visor down, only to see his own warped reflection in a cruddy mirror behind it, and nothing else. I don't see anything. Billy Joe scrunched up her face and looked around the visor. Oh, really? Could have sworn there was a judgmental hypocrite in that mirror. Theo nodded and let a slight smile creep across his face. Okay, he said. Fine. You got me. Billy Joe giggled and punched his arm playfully. Love you, Theo, even when you're being a fool. Ugh, shut up, Theo smiled. The two friends drove off through the rest of the neighborhood, seeing their surroundings a little differently for the rest of the quiet ride. So in this one, I wanted to draw that contrast between the two characters and just the banter back and forth and how they are, and how Billy Joe, even though she might be that outgoing person and she might be from a very different place, can give Theo some perspective on the fact that he is being a judgmental person. Even though he's saying they're judging him for the way he looks, he's in turn judging them for the way they look and the way they're living. And you don't really know that person. And that's kind of what judgment is about, really, or judging somebody or being judgmental is about. And so I had fun with this one because I hadn't really gotten to a point in the story where I've written these two characters together, but I really enjoyed their dynamic because they are very strong personalities for the both of them. And Billy Joe does tend to have that sort of almost like a hidden intelligence about her, you know, and she's a bit younger, but she is very wise and she's been through a lot. And so it was a fun one to kind of do. But again, it's a prompt that came from just the word judgment and how would you do judgment? So I'm like, all right, fine. I'm just going to throw this at my characters and then see how they would handle a situation that has to do with judgment or being judgmental. I've got one more for you, and I need to just tell you a little bit about the story in general. So the story that I'm writing called Brain Dead is it's basically I'm taking an INFJ who's super awkward and insecure and never gets anything right, and I'm throwing him into a zombie apocalypse just to see what would happen. And I'm trying to do it in a very lighthearted way, to just kind of illustrate some of those themes and really kind of hone in on his character and how he handles things, how he handles his personal relationships, how he handles all the chaos and disaster that the zombie apocalypse is bringing down on him. And just have fun with these different characters and how they play off of one another and how they develop bonds and develop friendships and kind of grow on from there. And the whole time following Avery's story arc, which is basically the fact that he is in love with his roommate Simone and every fiber of his being is about protecting her. So in this one, it's a scene again with Billy Joe and this time with Avery. And they are opposites. Avery is an INFJ. She is an ESTP, essentially. So there's some crossover in that an ESTP, I think will find a lot of comfort in somebody who uses a lot of external feeling. And in turn, an external feeler like Avery or like any INFJ will find comfort in people that use logic. Because it does help to ground each other. So just a little setup to the scene. In this one, they are in a parking garage and they are holed up there fighting off zombies and basically using it as sort of a base of operations for just a couple of nights until they can fix up vehicles and move on to somewhere much better. This is in the middle of the story and I haven't really written this part yet. So I just decided to write this scene and say, okay, this is where I'm putting them and this is the situation that they're going to be in, and run with the prompt from there. This prompt was really cool because it was name 3 things that would cheer you up instantly. And again, I drew that card out of that so deck. And I'm like, 3 things that would cheer me up instantly. Well, let me, again, throw it at my characters. And what would cheer up one of my characters instantly, especially if that character was a strong user of sensing or external sensing. So somebody that was very much grounded in the moments and in that sort of physical world. So here we'll get a little bit of Avery and Billy Joe going together. 3 things that would cheer you up instantly. Avery staggered down the concrete steps in the parking garage, trying to keep his eyes open. He'd been on the second floor helping Vern get their vehicles ready for more than 16 straight hours, and it was finally time to try to get a little nap in before the group was to set off in the morning. He spotted Billy Joe at the bottom of the stairs, sitting down on the last step. Her clothes were torn, covered in dust and grime. Her hair looked like a messy bird's nest, and she had streaks of dried blood on her hand. Beside her was her dad's weathered over-under Winchester shotgun and a handful of shells. Avery knew it must have been a rough night of fighting for her. He collapsed beside her on the bottom step, reached a tired arm around her, and pulled her in with a hug. Billy Joe leaned her head on his shoulder as her body relaxed. Thanks, AA. Another tough night? Billy Joe nodded, causing some gravel to fall out of her hair and bounce off Avery's knee. Brutal. I don't know why God's keeping me alive right now. Either he forgot about me or he wants to show me what hell is really like. Avery considered her thoughts for a moment as he smiled and brushed the gravel off his leg. Look, these are dark days. There's no getting around that. But there'll be bright ones again. Hope so, said Billy Joe, moving the shotgun shells to the other side so she could more comfortably rest against her friend. Right now, everything's just so damn intense and really fucking sad. Well, what would cheer you up? If I could pull 3 things from thin air right now to make you feel better, what would they be? I'll give you 3 wishes. Billy Joe laughed. First, a fucking shower with some hot water and some soap. Avery smiled. Hey now, that's already 3 things. Shut up, AA. Let me have my proper hot shower with all the fixins and 2 more damn things. We're talking in hypotheticals. You ain't no genie, so humor me. All right, he laughed. A proper hot shower it is. Give me another one. Remember that store we got into a few towns back? Not the convenience store, but the other one, where we thought Theo was dying because he was shrieking like a little girl climbing on top of the shelves? Avery let out a belly laugh that echoed around the garage. I cannot believe I never knew he was deathly afraid of mice. That's the one, Billy Joe laughed. Well, we snagged a few handfuls of coffee beans from the office out back, and Vern brewed 'em up just right. Oh, AA, that tiny cup of brown water was perfect. Like God himself came down from heaven and said, Billy Joe, this right here is a real cup of fucking coffee. Drink it. After my hot shower, I'd take another one of those. Maybe this time with some real cream and a touch of sugar. Avery gave Billy Joe another little squeeze and rested his chin on top of her head. All right, you've got one more wish. What is it? Billy Joe paused in silent thought for a few moments. I don't need one more. No? Your all-powerful genie is right here. You've got a hot shower and hot coffee. Can't think of anything else? Billy Joe slid her arms around Avery's waist and hugged him tight on the cold concrete step. Not anything better than this here moment, AA. This wish came true. I don't want to push my luck. Avery smiled and leaned against the side wall on the concrete stairway. Billy Joe wrapped around him still. Moments later, the two drifted into much-needed sleep, dreaming of soapy hot showers and real cups of fucking coffee. Apologies for the language, people, but they're characters. And I curse, like it just happens. So for this one, again, 3 things that would cheer you up. And I didn't want to do this prompt in such a way where I sat down and just said, I am cheered up by kittens. I am cheered up by puppies. I am cheered up by not eating candy corn ever again. Sorry, I can't resist the candy corn thing. It's just kind of funny to me now. But anyway, I really dislike this stuff. I mean, like, if you haven't been able to tell, like half of my videos, I absolutely trash candy corn. Anyway, so for this one, I'm like, all right, let me take a scenario where something really difficult has been going on, right? Billy Joe's been fighting off zombies. Avery's been working on trucks and helping Vern for 16 straight hours. And he comes down to the steps, and what does he do? As an FE, as an external feeler, he puts his arm around her and tries to comfort her. You know, even though he's exhausted, that's what he's doing. And what does she do? You know, as that ESTP-ish person, you know, where sensing is really important. What are the things that she picks, right? She picks hot coffee and a hot shower and just a really sweet moment where she's being comforted. And so the two of them play off each other in that kind of cool way. And so there's multiple things going on here. That's one of the ways that I try to wrap MBTI into the characters that I'm writing. And it helps me stay centered and stay balanced and keep those characters on point throughout the entire story by just constantly reminding myself, yes, this is what they're like. But also it just allows me to color this kind of sweet moment between the two of them and do it in terms of that writing prompt. And sure enough, these prompts just really worked for me. You know, these were three that as soon as I wrote these little pieces, I was like, man, I can't wait to really dig into this story more and write more about it. And so, you know, obviously this is writing centered, and it's a little bit different if you're a different type of creative. And so if you are an artistic, if you're creating art or creating, sketches, drawings, paintings, or anything along those lines, it's just a matter of finding that alternate perspective, right? That little way to say, okay, like I need to draw something, and maybe it's a drawing prompt of some kind. And you think, okay, the drawing prompt is draw your favorite tree. Well, how can you take that prompt and take that task and twist it in a way that you can see it differently, or see it through somebody else's eyes? You know, what would that tree look like if you were a 3-year-old boy or a 3-year-old girl? What would that tree look like if you were an old man or an old woman? What would that tree look like if you were a bird? I mean, there's so many different elements of perspective that you can do for any kind of a prompt to jumpstart your creativity. So I really hope this video has helped you if you are creative and if you're struggling with finding some of that motivation to sort of keep it going. Prompts are really cool for this kind of thing, and I don't use them often. I tend to get into a pretty good groove when I'm being creative where I don't really need it. But every once in a while, that slowdown happens, and I have to step back, and I'll just write a little bit of dialogue or write a little scene that is completely and totally separate from whatever I am working on, but maybe tied to it with the same character or a same location or something along those lines. And it does help the creativity just get that start and get moving in such a way that it starts to flow again. The floodgates open. Out goes all the creativity. Again, if you haven't joined up already, please join us on the Discord and come chat and hang out with us. We have such a great group of people, and there's a lot of good things going on. You are welcome to. I'll leave the links wherever. Down in the description, you'll see the link to join the Discord. You just got to get the app. It's really cool. Sometimes a little bit of a learning curve. Everything is explained on there, and people are really friendly, so you can just come on and ask. It's cool. And as always, thank you. Thank you for being here with me. I hope you are all safe and healthy and finding your way through everything the world is going through at this moment. I appreciate you so much, and I'm so grateful that you're here, and I will see you all very, very soon.